Because I think pricing is like a conversation. It's not like a period end of sentence for me. Like if a brand comes back, and you can get, good feelings from people just from emails. Sometimes you can tell if this is like, no, this is going to be weird, or like, this is going to be great. This person seems really awesome. If they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, like we so wanted to work with you and we're really sorry, but like we don't have like 5,000 for this project, but we have 3,000. Is there something we can make work? Or they just don't say anything after that and they're like, we only have 3,000. Then I could come back and be like, okay, well, I can't do a 60-second video for 3,000, but I could do.
This is your host, Dyutama, but you can call me DJ. And I love to inspire food photographers to dream. I spent 15 years as an architect studying buildings and constructing hospitals before taking the biggest leap of faith of my life, which was setting up a food styling and food photography business right from scratch. If you're a dreamer like me, wanting to start a new photography business or grow your existing food photography business, jump right into a world where I share practical, actionable strategies to improve your photography skills, to work with clients, make more money, all with a fearless mindset. This is the My Food Lens podcast, and we take you one step closer to your dreams. So let's go. All right, so here we are in part 2 of our conversation with Eva Kosmas Flores. Now, Eva is a photographer, videographer. She's based in Portland, Oregon, and she's an icon in the food photography industry. I've known her since I started food photography, and she's been there for even longer. She's had over a decade in the industry, and she's a master at food videos. If you've not checked out part 1 of the conversation with her, which was all about technical information on camera, gear, frame rates, and all the good stuff that goes into creating videos, then go check out part 1 after you check out this one. All right, today we're going to get into the business side and the practical side of creating food videos, how we can use it really to grow and scale our business. How can we differentiate ourselves in the market? How does the pricing of food videos look like? How can we price competently? And also copyright license, all of that. We're going to be chatting about this with Eva. So let's go. When you do have stills and videos, for the same client and it's for the same recipe, do you create stills? Like, again, I'm talking about time, efficiency. I'm just thinking of what your workflow is. So how do you create the stills? Are there kind of visuals, stills of the settings that you create for your videos, or you do your stills separately and they are a different setup and a completely different composition, and you dedicate a separate time only to do your stills?
It's kind of a little bit of a hybrid of both in that like I use a different camera for my stills. I love my Canon 5D Mark IV for photography more than my mirrorless camera. So I use my 5D Mark IV for all my photography still. And that's actually really nice when I need to shoot video and photos, because I don't have to switch between video and photo mode on my camera. I just have like one camera will like remain my video settings and I don't have to worry about messing that up if I'm switching back and forth. And then one is for my photo setting. So then when I'm wanting to shoot the still, I'll, stop my video recording, get my still image camera ready. But a lot of times it's going to be frames that are really similar to the video because I already composed it really nice in the video. So I'm like, and this will make a great still, like this will be cool. But if I know there's going to be like text on it for the client, maybe they want some negative space, I might nudge stuff around so they could put text somewhere in the photo, like thinking about those types of things. And then I'll do my still shot and then just dive back into the video, keep going. But it is easy, I will say, to accidentally get caught up in the video and forget the stills. Like if you have to take them at specific steps in the recipe, like, making a pie for a client. And I'm like, oh, I really wanted to take a photo of the pie crust decoration before I put it in the oven. But I was so caught up on the video that I was like, okay, great, now I can just put it in the oven. You don't get the still. So I would just be really careful about double checking your still shot list throughout the video shoot to make sure you don't forget about the stills, that you need to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, sorry, connected question is your
Yeah.
lighting. How are you shooting only in natural light so you can make the switch easily? What lights are you using for your videos?
Yeah, I just use natural light. I
Hmm.
do have the Aperture Light Storm, which is an amazing artificial light that I'm obsessed with. And I use it with the Fresnel 2x mount, and that goes over the top of the Aperture light to like make the light even more strong
Okay.
without needing more watts or anything. So that's nice because it doesn't require a lot of electricity. You don't have to worry about it. Like some of the lights that people used to use, you'd have to worry about it blowing out like the fuse of your house, like because it would
Oh.
need so much power.
Oh boy.
So with the Aperture, you don't have to worry about that at all. So when I do use an artificial light, that's the one that I use. But that's not one I would use like in tandem with natural light. That would be like my
Mm.
only light source. If I'm just like, I
Yeah.
don't want any natural light, I would use my Aperture. But I like to keep things easy breezy. So if I can just use natural light and not have to set up an artificial light, I'm going to do that. And
Yeah.
that's probably what I do like the vast majority of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes it easier to also switch between
Yeah.
stills and videos. I mean, with artificial light, you kind of, unless you have the right kind of light, they wouldn't work, for both styles. So I love that. I love
Yeah.
that, to make it easy for yourself. Just
Yeah.
find a workflow that is easy for yourself.
Keeping it low stress.
Mm. Tell me, did you always have videos as part of your services? And if you didn't, then how did you start marketing them? How were you positioning, or was there any other, how were you putting it out to clients? Maybe you had existing clients, doing photography for them, and then you're like, "Ooh, now I can do videos, and let me put that out as a additional service." So, what was some of the way that you marketed your services in the beginning, and then once you added videos, then how did that change?
It's really funny because at first when I was doing food videos, it was mainly just for fun and for instructional purposes, kind of like I said for my blog. And then I started doing them
Mm-hmm.
for Instagram, but it was still pretty just for fun. So the clients that I was already working with at the time saw them, and that's when I started doing them for clients as they wanted them. They were like, "Oh, I really like the videos you do. Would you do like how much would you charge to do a video for us?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Like I'd love to do that." So as much as I would love to say that I had this like very strategic plan, I did not. It just kind of like happened. But then once I started doing them, now it's definitely something that I always offer when I'm pitching to clients or when someone approaches me about doing like a sponsored post. I always ask like, well, do you want me to do like I could do a video and then I could do like a shorter one and like give you some options so you have it like for different platforms or whatever. So now I'm always kind of pushing and asking about the video options with clients that I work with. But it definitely just started, I guess, a little bit more naturally because I was putting my video skill set out there. And I think that drew in the clients that liked the style of videos that I was making.
Yeah, definitely. I think it just happens like, when you do something so well and you're just doing it out of passion, people see it and you're putting it out there. So, for someone who can relate to it, resonate with it, understand that style, they want to hire you for that. So, like they always say, create the work that you want to be hired for. Not that you did it for that,
Yes,
but see how it
exactly.
turned out.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, because if you want to start getting hired for something, you need to start practicing it and also just putting it out there just for yourself so that people can see what you're capable of. You have to show them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's say you didn't do videos. All right, let's just go into a time where maybe you didn't do videos, and maybe that's how you had moved forward in your journey.
Yeah.
Do you think how different do you think your business would look? Would you have been able to scale or grow the same way, or you really think that I can't think of my journey without videos, and I can't think of a better way for me to have scaled? How do you think scaling, growing your business was connected to being able to do videos?
I was hugely connected, honestly. Like I would
Mhm.
say last year, 80% of my client work had a video component to it. And then the year before that, it was probably like 60 to 70%. So it's been really huge
Oh,
in
wow.
keeping my business growing and profitable as the market has become like more competitive and more saturated. I do think it's been really helpful to
Yeah.
have that unique skill set, that I can offer. And especially I think in the style of video that I can do and the quality, because I feel like the more you practice anything that seems technically overwhelming at first, just like with photography, your camera settings, I'm sure at first you're like, oh my God, there's so many numbers. Like, this is crazy. But over time, you just start to remember them. And it's like second nature, it's like a muscle memory. And it's the exact same thing with video. All the technical settings, once you keep practicing, you will just know them. And clients really appreciate when you can chat with them and really get like an eye and a feeling for what they want and bring that vision to life. It's really rewarding to do that with stills, but with video it takes it to the next level because there's just this emotional component to it that you can really like get across with video, that it can just be really fun. It's a fun process. So, and very lucrative too. So I would definitely recommend investing in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. And how would you say is the pricing? Would you price your videos higher than your still photos? How does it vary in pricing?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So videos definitely are more work than stills. So definitely you should be charging more than your stills to shoot video. So I was like thinking about this because I'm like, oh man, there's like so much that goes into pricing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, how can I keep it to the most helpful components? So I feel like for me, the biggest determinants when I'm thinking about pricing a video, is like I think about roughly the amount of time it's going to take me. So like once I've talked to the client, I have an idea of like what the subject is going to be, how detailed, this is. Is it all in one location? Do I have to change locations? Is it all one
Mm.
recipe? How complicated is the recipe if it's just one? How many days will it take me to shoot? So that's, part of the time. Also editing, if it's like a 10-second video versus a 60-second video, the 60-second one's going to take me a lot longer to edit just because I have more footage to cut together. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because you think, oh, 60 seconds, like that's nothing. And you're like, okay, well, I still have to sit through 30 minutes of the footage that I shot to like trim down,
I
to
know.
that 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the types of things that I think about when
Hmm.
I decide how long I think this is going to take me.
Yeah.
So that's my number one consideration. My number two is the size and budget of the brand that I'm working with, because smaller businesses have smaller budgets and bigger businesses
Mm.
have bigger budgets.
Hmm.
And if I'm making a food video for like a local restaurant, I would charge a lot less than if I was working with craft foods, So like even if it's the same amount of work, I'm still going to scale that project to what I know that client's budget is, because in my mind, I really enjoy what I do. And I also like to be able to work with smaller independent businesses as well as a small creative business owner. I also like to collaborate with other people like myself, but I know that they don't have the budget that a lot of these big food companies do. So by being able to charge more, working with these big corporations, that allows me to still be able to be flexible with like smaller creative folks that are just, really fun to work with and can be really, really inspiring. Not to say that big
Yeah.
brands aren't fun to work with too, because they can be a blast as well.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to create and work with people who might not be able to afford me otherwise that
Yes,
way.
yes. It's more
Yeah.
personal and it's a completely different experience. I definitely understand that. But this is a very interesting point. I think it's really something for especially new photographers to think about, because we always, walk into the professional world thinking that, oh, we need to come up with a rate, we need to come up with a fee, and this is how it works. So not really giving ourselves the benefit that it's okay if we do want to charge a little less, just because we do want to work with a certain brand and they may not be able to afford us at our regular rate. It's okay because you can always offset that by working with big brands. I don't think that many folks think about it like that. They go with one number and that's how it works. So thank you for putting it out there. I think it gives people,
Yeah.
it's like a permission, you know,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
that it's okay. If you want to work with someone, go do it.
Because I think pricing is like a conversation. It's not like a period end of sentence for me. Like if a brand comes back, and you can get, good feelings from people just from emails. Sometimes you can tell if this is like, no, this is going to be weird, or like, this is going to be great. This person seems really awesome. If they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, like we so wanted to work with you and we're really sorry, but like we don't have like 5,000 for this project, but we have 3,000. Is there something we can make work? Or they just don't say anything after that and they're like, we only have 3,000. Then I could come back and be like, okay, well, I can't do a 60-second video for 3,000, but I could do a 15-second video, or like whatever. So, just being flexible and scaling your offering and the amount of work you're doing to what they can afford. I feel like a lot of clients really appreciate that because it shows that like you're interested in working with them. And at the same time, though, you're not necessarily losing money because you've scaled the scope of your work down, right? So now you're not doing as much work. So the pay is still in proportion to the amount of work that you're doing. So I think if you can be strategic that way, it really helps too. And then there was one more thing about what goes into pricing your videos that I wanted to mention too. And it's like any video investments you've made in like gear or courses or education, keep track of those things, like how much money you've put into investing in video. And if you can start adding on just like a 5% fee to every video project of whatever that total amount you've invested in, is a really good way to make sure you're definitely making that investment back along with being paid for your time and like all the other things that you would think about. So I think just being aware of your initial investment and incorporating that into the price is really helpful too.
Yeah, I love that tip. A lot of us don't do that. Like we think that, okay, it's an investment. And we always think of it like, let's say I invest $1,000 in a course. When I take that course, I'll just be thinking, oh, I just need to make those $1,000 back. It's not about
Yeah.
taking a percentage of it and just adding that little by little into your services and spreading it out. We're always looking at the next project to be able to offset those $1,000, but it doesn't have to be that one big step. It can be small
Yeah.
little, small little chunks. So I love that. These are amazing. Eva, I did have to say one thing about, going back to your point about working with these, brands that sometimes cannot afford our services, but they're still great and they could be, local businesses in our towns. I feel like these are the businesses that contribute to the word of mouth.
Yes.
In spreading the word about our business, increasing our
Mhm.
networks, and really making us known in that local tier. Of course, we can work with big brands across the world, but to be known within your local communities, to be known within your cities, it's a very powerful way actually to market your business. Word of mouth is so powerful, and these local brands, small businesses do such a wonderful job because they are grateful and they are lovely, and they appreciate
Yes.
the effort that you make. So I just wanted to add that into, what you shared. So we've talked about pricing and we've talked about client work and we've talked about marketing, but I'm just so curious, Eva, just to know that, a lot of photographers, a lot of creators, they really struggle with getting a deal, just having a
Yeah.
project. Clients don't want to pay for anything. They're like, oh, I need to cut the budget here. I don't have money for this. I don't have money for that. So when you walk in and you say, I'm going to create a video, and okay, a photo might cost you $100, but a video is going to cost you $300. At that time, like what's the usual reaction that you see from clients? Are they willing to pay for videos? Are they more interested? Like, does the cost matter, or they push back and they'll say, no, then let's just do stills? Like, where is the market headed? Are you seeing more client demand? Are you seeing that they are ready to pay for this?
Yeah, I am definitely seeing the market demand for video. And then in terms of pricing, like very rarely I've had to push back on my video price, which I'm surprised because it's like they're not cheap because they're a lot more work. So
Hmm.
I do charge quite a bit more than for stills. But when I do get pushed back though, again, I compromise and like find a solution. So I haven't ever had someone approach me for video that I wasn't able to like still get to the point of doing paid work for them unless it was something crazy, like those weird spam marketing emails where you're
Yeah.
like, here's like a $20 gift card to Trader Joe's. Please make us a 60-second video. And you're like, I'm sorry, no, that is not happening. But like real conversations, with
Yeah.
prospective clients.
Hmm.
Always been able to like get to a happy medium where we all feel like pretty good about the price and stuff. Yeah.
And I'm sure that, knowing your experience, your background, and, you've established that credibility for yourself in the market by doing it for so many years and doing it for so many clients that I'm sure that most of your inquiries are serious and people take that seriously. And they know that they are not just kind of window shopping when they come and ask you for your rates. Do you think so?
I mean, I get so many like random PR
Oh, you
emails
do?
that are like I get so many of those. So
Yeah.
like there's a lot to wade through still, unfortunately. I
Mm.
feel like those people ruin email for everyone because your inbox is like such a mess. So I do still get a lot of random like mass emails. Like I'm sure everyone who's a food photographer on Instagram or a food blogger, we all get so I definitely still get those. But gotten a lot better about filtering out and catching the ones that are like legitimate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
All
then
right.
just keeping up with pitching, love
Yeah.
pitching regularly.
Ooh, wow. Okay. So you still do reach out to the brands that you want to work with. I
Yeah.
love that. Hmm.
Yeah. And I like following up with clients that I worked with years ago too, just to check in and be like, if you need anything, I'm here, I'm still working, because you already have the context. So why not check in, even if it's been, I mean, I followed up with clients I hadn't worked with in like 8 years. And then last year I got two jobs with that agency through that agency by like following up again. So it doesn't hurt to go way back through your Rolodex and just be like, hey, remember
Yeah.
me? Yeah.
Wow. Oh, wow. I love it. I have such a passion for pitching. And I know a lot of folks take a lot of pride that, oh, I didn't need to pitch anymore and I'm getting enough work. And I'm like all about that. But I always feel that if we want to work with someone, no matter how many years of experience we have under our belt, the idea of pitching doesn't mean that we're any less. It just means
Oh,
that
not
we're
at all.
choosing who we want to work with and we are following, our own path, our own desires to be associated with a certain brand. So I'm so happy that you brought this up. Hearing from you, I think it's yet again another permission or the assurance that pitching means you're driving it on your own terms. I mean, that's how I see
Yes,
it. Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask you, like, I know that you shared with us earlier a lot of applications that some mobile applications and some desktop applications that we can use for editing our videos. But what do you think is the future looking like? Like, are the clients mostly looking for these quick and dirty kind of, 60-second videos that look very relatable, but at the same time, like, it's not poor quality. It's just quick and dirty and, something that you can easily put out? Or are they looking for that very curated, beautiful, absolutely professional videos? Where do you think the future is headed?
If I'm being honest, I would say both because I think they
Hmm.
both have their own place in the marketplace and they're both really impactful in their own way. And each of them are so unique. So, like the simple, quick and dirty videos, those are really good at educational content and making that educational content feel really approachable. Like, I could do this because it doesn't like look too fancy and it looks like really simple.
Hmm.
Then we have the flip side where it's like a more beautiful cinematic style video. Beings, we've been using beautiful art as a mental treat for ourselves for thousands of years. So, having these beautiful and cinematic videos really resonates with people too, because people like to feel good emotions. They like to feel transported into a place. and have a little escape. And I feel like that's what the cinematic videos are really, really good at, is giving people like a little happy escape for a moment. Whereas the quick and dirty ones are really good at like teaching someone to do something, like making a recipe, stuff like that. So I think they will both still continue to thrive because I think they each kind of have their own purpose that the other doesn't really fill, if that makes sense. And there'll always be a need for both, in my opinion. And I like doing both because I have played with quick and dirty videos too. I haven't posted any of those in a while, but those are the ones that have gone more viral for me, are the quick and dirty recipe videos. And I teach both styles in my vertical video course simply because I do think they're both really helpful to know. And if you want to work with clients, and when I'm pitching myself about video too, I always say, what kind of video do you want? I can do like more cinematic style, and I'll link to like a reel that I did that was like really cinematic.
Yeah.
Or I can do a more simple one, and I'll link to like one of the like simple recipe videos I shot with my phone. I think it's nice to be able to let the client choose, what style that they want. And also at the same time, you're showing them, I could do either one. And like, here's the range of the things that I'm capable of. So that's really helpful to do too.
Yeah. And if you can do one, you can do the other one as well. So it's like, why not? Why not add something more to your services list? I love it. Just have both in your repertoire. But tell me, have you run into like kind of ownership issues with videos? Because that's such a, like, at least for me, it's a bit of a gray area with photos. It's so black and white. Like, how does copyright and license work for videos? Is it similar as photos, or it's a completely different world of its own?
That's a great question. So copyright law will be different depending on the country. So here in the US, the copyright law does include video. So basically, the way the law is worded is like, as soon as you create your video and you finish editing it, or you just even shoot it, it's copywritten. That is like your copyright. But there is a big but, and that is, if you ever want, in the US, if you want to sue for copyright infringement, you almost have to have registered that artwork with the Copyright Office in the US. So it's like, technically, yes, it is your copyright, but the way the legal system is, it's going to be a lot easier for you to win a copyright lawsuit if you ever wanted to sue somebody, if you had registered it with the US Copyright Office. And what that means is you like fill out a form and you pay the government some money. That's what that means. So it's a little bit frustrating because it's like, I'm not going to do that with every video that I make or every photo that I take. So of course you could try to sue if you wanted to, but it's going to be a much more positive outcome, more likely if you did register it, with that Copyright Office. But that whole process will vary depending on the country. So, if you're outside the US, you would just need to kind of research a little bit about the copyright laws around video in your country. But in the US, that's typically how the copyright laws work.
Oh, wow. Stuff. And then as far as license goes, is it same as photos? Like you do sign a license where usage, terms, duration, all of that is similar as photos?
Yes, it's all, it's like pretty much transfer the same parameters over to video. Yeah, so that's an easy shift.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you ever run into situations where clients will come and say, oh, we want the rights to the photo? And then you're like, oh, the same discussion over again. Has it ever happened that they wanted full rights?
Of course. Yeah. I feel like it happens more and more now, actually, which is surprising. People just want the full rights to the images. So you're just like, all right, well, we can talk about it. We can get into the licensing. It is a common conversation. Yeah.
All right. And then all you do is educate them about license versus copyright or full rights, and then they are okay? Or how do you handle this?
Yeah, they're usually okay and they get it. I feel like I have developed a pretty good communication skill set with my clients to just educate them, but not in a way that feels like threatening or like it's such a delicate conversation to have. You
Mm-hmm.
have to come at it with like a really warm and like relaxed voice, because you don't want them to feel
Yeah.
like you're trying to like squeeze every penny out of
Yes.
them. Because some people, when you get into conversations about, those types of fees, are like, this doesn't sound like legitimate. And you're like, actually, it's very normal, but let me,
Yeah. Yeah.
let me explain it to you. So I think your vibe, your tone is very important in these conversations that you have
Mm-hmm.
with clients, and it's going to have a big effect on how they react as well. So just be careful about the way you're wording something if you're writing in an email, or just stay
Yes.
really calm and casual if it is over the phone or on Zoom or something.
Ah, right. Yeah, that is, oh gosh, it's such a delicate, it's like pricing. It's such a delicate
Yeah,
conversation. So on
yeah.
that note, have you ever had an experience with a client that really was like, oh, this is, it was a tough one, or it just went sideways, or you were like, that is not a situation I want to be in again. Has it ever happened?
It has definitely happened multiple times, but I will say it hasn't happened in years, because every time that has happened, I've been like, all right, well, I'm not doing that again. You learn, and and it also helps you hone your red flag skills. So like
Yeah,
when someone
yeah.
approaches you and you start getting in deeper into conversation, like, that rings a bell from that other time. I don't think so. I don't think I'm the photographer for this project. But yeah, I had lots of projects like that at the beginning, because like back in 2009, back in like probably 2009 to 2012, I was just like saying yes to everything that came my way, even projects that weren't a good fit. And I learned a lot from making so many mistakes, especially with communication. I think that's just like such a big key that I've gotten so much better at, is just making sure everyone is on the same page with like what your expectations are for the project and how things will look, and all the details and stuff. So now I ask so many questions when I'm
Yeah, yeah,
negotiating with clients.
yeah.
Even sometimes I'll double check something that's in the brief, which is good, because like actually I just had a client contract that I just signed where the brief was about one item that they had, but I was like, well, I just did a thing about, did they want it to actually be the other one? I just double checked. I was like, is this the product you want me to feature? And they were like, oh no, actually, that's a good catch. We want you to feature this product instead. So it was like, good thing
Oh,
that
wow.
I asked
Yeah.
and double checked. So like, don't be afraid to ask questions, because it can end up being a good thing.
Okay, my takeaway here is create a red flag list. That's what I'm doing next. but
Yes.
but I mean, the more experience you have, the more you learn, you understand what's for you, what's not for you. And
Yes.
you kind of have this intuitive feeling, like, that question that you asked about the product, it's just intuitive. You're like, let's just, make sure we're all clear on this one. And obviously there was something in your intuition that, ticked,
Yeah.
and you were like, oh, let's get this clarified. So as you progress, as you getting more experience, this red flag list grows, and your intuition also grows. I love it. But on that note, also, Eva, I feel like, of course, we all love your photography. We love, you're so knowledgeable about
Thank
this
you.
industry. But you've also, in little bits, shared a bit of your personal journey on social media. And,
Yeah.
we've all seen that it's not been easy for you. And yet, today you're sitting here, you're talking about stories from 8 years ago, from 2009. Like, that's like too much math for me to think of how many years ago. But
I know, I can't even do the math too long.
but the point is that you've stayed, and you've sustained, and you have given your best, every single time, no matter what personal obstacles came in the way, whether it was health, whether it was property, whether it was something legal, whether it was a dream that was not coming true. So many things have come in your way, but nothing has really stopped you. You've just gone on and moved forward. So I feel like I want to end our conversation on this uplifting note. And I feel like, coming from you,
Yeah.
it will have a very different effect on our listeners. So can you, share some of your like top mindset shifts or advice or tips for photographers that they can, handle these personal, because we all go through these, like no one doesn't, right? But to be able to overcome them, to still stay positive, to still believe in the journey, It's tough
Hmm.
and you've done it so
Yeah.
well. So, can you share some mindset shifts or some tips for our listeners today?
Yeah, I love the way you phrased that question, because when I was reading through the list of questions you sent me, I really thought about it in like a business sense, but now I'm kind of thinking about it in just like an overall life sense. So what I would, my original response was that like not every project is going to resonate with you creatively 100% of the time, and that's totally okay. Because I sometimes feel like people expect, oh, I'm a photographer now. Like every project is going to be like a dream and I'm going to be so excited. And it's like, that's not the case. And that's okay,
Yeah.
because it is a job. Like it's still a job. So there's going to be some days where you get a project and you're really excited about it and it's totally up your alley. And then there'll be other days where you get a project and it's like not very creatively exciting, but you're going to do the best that you can and it's going to be great regardless of how excited you are about it. And I feel like, though, kind of thinking more in broad personal terms, like what you just said, that kind of applies to life too. Sometimes you have projects for your life or things that you intended or, hopes that you had. And life doesn't always go according to plan. And so you just have to accept that and be flexible and also just never ever give up, just like keep powering through because we are all so unique, every single one of us. There's no one else like us in the world, and no one can offer what we offer. And to everyone listening, no one can offer what you do. Like they just can't because you are the only you in the world. So when you have those hard days, everybody has them, but just keep that in mind and know that the hard times won't last forever. And I think good things always are just waiting right around the bend.
Yeah, yeah. What is the one thing that inspires you to take this in your stride, to take tough times in your stride and just move forward in your journey? One thing that inspires you or gives you the faith. Can you share with us?
um, Probably I would say like my family, honestly. Yeah, just like I have amazing parents and I have an amazing husband. And I think having that really solid foundation gives me the like strength and confidence to persevere and also like a healthy dose of stubbornness because I'm a very stubborn person as well. When I get really focused on like doing something, I just will like keep trying to do it. So I think that plays a part as well. But I honestly think it's like having really great family support is like key for me. Yeah.
Well, this was amazing, Eva.
Yeah.
And I think the industry is so blessed to have someone like you in it because, even in the small things that you've done and the big things that you've done, you've just always demonstrated that, have faith in what you do, keep creating from your heart, and life will reward you for it. So basically, everything has
Yeah.
happened from that small, creating videos just for fun. Look where they brought you, you know you've gone through
Yeah.
so many hardships in your personal life, and yet you've just moved on and forward with that faith in you. So I just feel like whether it's technical photography or it's life or it's mindset or whatever it is, as a creator in a holistic way, you really demonstrate, that all the skills that we need to have to be able to sustain for maybe more than a decade. Again, not doing the math, more than a decade or 2 decades in this
Yeah. Let's
industry.
not crunch numbers here.
But so thank you so much for sharing so
Oh.
much about videography, all the technicalities, and being so generous in, sharing your knowledge. Before you go, I would love for you to share about your vertical video course that you mentioned, where people can see your beautiful videos, your social media handles, and anything else that you'd like our audience to know.
Yeah, so you can find my vertical video course at my website, evakosmasflores.com. And if you use the code LENS10, you could get 10% off for listeners. A food blog, Adventures in Cooking, that I've had for many years that I love dearly because I also really love creative food writing. And I'm trying to think. Oh, and I have a cookbook, First We Eat. So if you want to like get a pretty cookbook that has some nice recipes, that's my cookbook. And I have lots of freebies on my website too. So if you're interested in downloading some free presets or like free guides and resources. EvaKosmasFlores.com has all that fun free stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. And we're going to link the promo code and the link to your course into our show notes. So we'll get that hooked in. Thank you so much, Eva, for being here today. What an honor, what a delight to be sitting with one of the icons of the industry. Thank you so much.
This was my pleasure. I had so much fun chatting with you, and I just was so excited when I saw your message because a lot of us work pretty solo, it's not as much of a collaborative experience. A lot of us are just working in our own homes, and I am one of those people. So it's just such a treat for me to sit down and chat with you about all the creative stuff that we both love.
Okay. All right. I hope you made notes from that conversation because there were such helpful tips that Eva left us with, especially for pricing. How do you price for food videos, especially if you've been taking photos for clients previously? How do you switch and add on the service of videos in your repertoire? I mean, what a powerful conversation, right from understanding copyright license to understanding how it differentiates and whether it differentiates you in the market to, pricing, to also understanding that you never should get out of the habit of pitching. Look how Eva has grown and taken her business so far that today I can sit here and say she's an icon in the industry. She's gone through massive personal obstacles. She's gone through massive life changes. And yet she has been steadily moving forward, making a name for herself and changing the way we do things in the industry. And I'm pretty sure that's a dream that you nurture as well. So she's not only set an example, in the quality of her content, but also in the way she approaches her creator life. I hope you have brilliant takeaways from this episode. I hope you've taken notes and I hope that you will put them into practice. All right. And when you put them into practice, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Email me at hello@myfoodlens.com or DM me on Instagram at Gitama_myfoodlens. And I'll see you next week with another episode. Until then, bye-bye.